Trump had prodded the leader to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden and his son. We've got Brandy Cruz here this morning with a special guest to talk more about this morning, Brandy.
Yeah, good morning. It seems hour by hour there are new developments in all of this, and certainly we are anticipating less than a half hour from now the acting DNI director's testimony. In the meantime, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of our state, a Democrat who sits on the House Judiciary Committee, joins us live. Congresswoman, first of all, let me just ask you, have you read the whistleblower complaint? We're hearing reports that some members of Congress have seen it and now have it. Do you have it? Have you read it?
No, we don't have it yet because I'm not on the Intelligence Committee. So far it's only classified. It is going to be declassified today, we understand, and so we will get a chance to look at it later today.
So as I had said, moments from now, the acting DNI director is expected to testify before the Intel Committee about the contents of that whistleblower complaint. What do you want to hear from him?
Well, he's going to testify about a number of things. First of all, he's going to have to testify about the call record, which I have seen and read. This is sort of a summary set of notes from President Trump's call with the Ukrainian president. And it was damning, Brandy. It was released yesterday by the White House. I read it in full, and I was really quite stunned. Of course, this is not anything different than what President Trump has said that he has done on public television. But essentially through that call record, what you see is the president talking to a foreign leader and essentially asking him to begin an investigation into his political opponent with the threat of taking away military aid that was appropriated by Congress to Ukraine to deal with their issues around defense and military around Russia. Very, very important to that country, obviously. Congress appropriated that aid. The president, a few days before the call, withheld that aid and then got on the phone with the Russian president and said, I'd like you to investigate my political opponent. He also, according to that transcript, brought in the Department of Justice Attorney General Bill Barr. He mentioned his own personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. So essentially, this is a grave situation where the president is betraying his oath of office, using that public office and that public trust for personal political gain to get a foreign country to interfere in the 2020 election.
And just a couple of things I want to note, with this phone call with the president of Ukraine. You mentioned this thing about military funding, and there's a point in this partial transcript where the president tells Ukraine, we do a lot for you. I do want to note, though, there's not really a black and white quid pro quo. They talk about all of these during the same phone call, but it's not as if the president said, investigate my political rival, or else you won't get this, or else we don't do this for you. Correct? We can acknowledge that.
This is, of course, what the president would argue, but I will just make the very clear point. There does not need to be a quid pro quo in order for a crime to occur. The reality is that the president is using his political office for his own personal gain. That aid was stopped by the president, authorized by Congress, and stopped by the president days before the phone call. Then at the beginning of the transcript, you will see that he says, we do a lot, we do more for you than Europe, in fact. He puts it clearly on the table that it is right there. There does not need to be a quid pro quo for this to be a serious offense and really an entry into the kind of lawlessness we saw during the campaign. The difference is, same pattern, but the difference, Brandy, is that this president is doing this as he is the president of the United States, and he is bragging about it, and he is doing it himself, not an underling.
Let me just ask you then, is it a foregone conclusion that the House will impeach the president? And if that's the case, and you can disagree with me, but if that's the case, it seems highly unlikely that the Senate would vote to remove the president. You need 20 Republican senators to side with the Democrats. So is this going anywhere at the end of the day?
Well, I'll tell you something. I know people want to make this analysis, but I think there are some things that are above politics. We have to do what we were sworn to do, which is our oath of office. I don't know what will come out of this. I personally believe that there is enough here to impeach the president. That's the first time that I am saying that I would be ready to vote to impeach the president. But I think we need to finish this process, which will be very quick and very expeditious, I want to say that, it will not drag out a long time. I know Speaker Pelosi has said this, and we will be quick about this. But what then happens is, of course, it goes to the Senate, and I don't think it is the senators that are the jury. I think it is the American people that ultimately will be the jury, and I think Republicans, independents, and Democrats, as evidenced by the almost unanimous votes in both the House and the Senate for the president to release the whistleblower complaint, which would not have happened except for this. I think you are seeing the tide turning across the country, and it's moving quickly.
I want to get this last question in. It's on a different subject, but I just want to make sure we mention it today. You are going to be talking about the Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act. I have a story coming up later in the week about immigration, which is why I wanted to ask you about this. Can you just talk briefly, we're running out of time here, but what that act would accomplish?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I'm going to be chairing a hearing in front of the Judiciary Committee. I've introduced this bill with our Washington Congressman Adam Smith, chairman of the Armed Services Committee, and it transforms the detention system. It eliminates private for-profit systems, prisons, and over 3 years transitions them to government prisons, eliminates mandatory detention, and actually allows for the people who have, to have alternatives to detention. Vast majority of people that are in immigration detention, which is really incarceration, do not deserve to be in jail. They deserve to be out, and it would cost the taxpayers a lot less money. So today we'll be having a hearing on really the outrageous levels of detention that are happening across the country and the kinds of people who are there. Most Americans would be very surprised to know that the vast majority of people who are there have not committed a crime, much less not been convicted of a crime, much less charged. So we're very excited about the hearing. We know it's going to be overshadowed, but thank you for paying attention to it, Brandy. It's an important hearing.
Absolutely, Congressman. We'll be watching that. Congresswoman, you said just a couple minutes ago that some things are above politics. I'm not sure anything is above politics these days, but we'll be watching all of these hearings unfold over the next, really, months. Thanks for being here.